I never thought my life would take such an unexpected turn on a fall afternoon. My name is Lucy, and this is the story of how a simple visit from a friend changed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and my own desires. It all began 3 months ago. My boyfriend Andrew and I had been together for almost 5 years. Our relationship was stable, comfortable, but lately I felt like something was missing. I couldn't identify exactly what it was, but there was a sense of emptiness that grew day by day. Andrew had just left on a 2-week business trip. I remember saying goodbye to him at the airport with a quick kiss and an "I'll miss you" that sounded more out of habit than feeling. As I watched him walk away, a part of me felt relieved. 2 weeks alone, I thought. Maybe that's just what I needed to clear my head. The first few days passed uneventfully. I enjoyed the freedom of having the apartment to myself, being able to leave dishes in the sink without anyone scolding me, watching my favorite shows without having to negotiate the remote control. But by the 4th day, the loneliness began to weigh on me. That's when I received a message from Jason, a close friend of Andrew's and mine. "How's everything going? Need some company?" The text said Jason had always been attentive, the kind of friend you could count on for anything. Without thinking too much, I replied, "Actually, I wouldn't mind some company, feel like coming over." That same evening, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and there was Jason, with his characteristic smile and a bag of Chinese food in hand. "I thought we could have dinner together," he said, and I couldn't help but smile. It was exactly what I needed. We settled on the couch, with the food containers open on the coffee table and a bottle of wine that Jason had brought. The conversation flowed easily, as it always did between us. We talked about work, mutual, friends, the latest movies we'd seen. But as the wine level in the bottle lowered, the chat became more personal. "How are things with Andrew?" Jason asked, and I felt as if he had touched a wound I didn't know I had. I hesitated for a moment, but something in Jason's gaze, in the way he tilted his head waiting for my answer, made me feel safe. "The truth, I don't know," I finally admitted. "Things are fine, I guess, but," he gently insisted. And then, as if a dam had broken, I began to talk. I told him about the routine we had fallen into, about how sometimes I felt more like a roommate than a girlfriend, about the dreams I had postponed to maintain the stability of our relationship. Jason listened attentively, nodding, asking occasional questions that led me to delve even deeper into my feelings. I didn't realize how much time had passed until I looked out the window and saw that it had gotten dark. "I'm sorry," I said, suddenly feeling embarrassed. "I didn't mean to overwhelm you with all this." Jason moved a little closer on the couch. "Don't apologize," he said, his voice soft and comforting. "That's what friends are for." It was at that moment that I noticed how close we were. I could smell his cologne, a mix of wood and citrus that I had always liked. His eyes, a warm brown, looked at me with an intensity I had never noticed before. "Lucy," he said, and the way he pronounced my name sent a shiver down my spine. "You're an incredible woman. You deserve to be happy, to feel appreciated, desired." His hand rested on mine, and I felt as if an electric current was running through my body. A part of me knew I should move away, that this was crossing a line. But another part, one that had been dormant for a long time, was beginning to wake up. "Jason, I began to say, but the words faded away when his other hand gently rested on my cheek. Time seemed to stand still. We looked into each other's eyes, and at that moment, all the warnings, all the reasons why this was wrong, vanished. Only the two of us existed, on that couch, with the accumulated tension of years of friendship and repressed desire about to explode. It was Jason who finally closed the distance between us. His lips found mine with an urgency that left me breathless. I responded to the kiss with equal passion, my hands tangling in his hair, drawing him closer. What followed was a whirlwind of sensations. Clothes falling to the floor, hands exploring newly discovered skin, muffled sighs and moans. We moved. From the couch to my bedroom, guilt momentarily forgotten in the midst of passion. Hours later, I lay awake in bed, Jason asleep beside me. The reality of what we had done was beginning to sink in, and with it, a confusing mix of emotions. Guilt, yes, but also a sense of liberation, as if I had rediscovered a part of myself that I thought was lost. The following days were emotional chaos. Jason and I communicated little, both processing what had happened in our own way. Every time my phone rang, my heart skipped a beat, torn between hoping it was him and fearing it was Andrew. My story isn't over yet. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you. We returned to the story. As the date of Andrew's return approached, anxiety grew inside me. How could I look him in the eye knowing what I had done? How could I move forward with our relationship after experiencing something so intense with Jason? The day before Andrew's return, I received a message from Jason. "We need to talk, can I see you?" My heart raced. I knew it was dangerous, that the sensible thing would be to wait, to clear things up with Andrew first, but the attraction, the need to understand what had happened between us was stronger. We met at a small cafe on the outskirts of the city, a place where we were unlikely to be recognized. Jason was already there when I arrived, his expression a mix of anxiety and anticipation that probably mirrored mine. "Lucy," he said as soon as I sat down across from him. "What happened? I can't stop thinking about it." "Me neither," I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. What followed was an intense conversation, full of confessions and revelations. Jason told me he had been in love with me for years, but had repressed his feelings out of respect for his friendship with Andrew and for my part, confessed how stagnant I felt in my relationship, how our afternoon together had awakened sensations I thought forgotten. "What are we going to do?" I finally asked, the question we had both been avoiding. Jason took my hand across the table, a gesture that sent shivers through my body. "I can't ask you to leave, Andrew," he said. "But I can't pretend that what happened between us meant nothing either." We left the cafe without a clear resolution, but with the promise to see each other again soon. My head was spinning as I drove back home. How had I gotten to this point? How could I even be considering the possibility of leaving my relationship of years for something that might well be just a passing adventure? Andrew's return the next day was even harder than I had imagined. As I hugged him at the airport, a part of me felt like an imposter. His kisses, his caresses, everything felt strange to me, as if my body had forgotten how to respond to him. The following days were torture. I tried to act normally, but every moment with Andrew was tinted by the memory of my afternoon with Jason. I constantly compared the way Andrew kissed me versus how Jason had done it, how he touched me, how he looked at me. And in every comparison, Andrew came up short. A week after Andrew's return, I received another message from Jason. "I can't go on like this. I need to see you, please." My heart raced. I knew it was dangerous, that I was playing with fire, but I couldn't resist. I told Andrew I was going out with some girlfriends and met Jason to a nearby park. As soon as I saw him, all my resolution to keep things platonic vanished. We kissed desperately, hidden behind a tree like teenagers. "I love you, Lucy," Jason told me, between kisses. "I know it's wrong, I know I'm betraying my best friend, but I can't help it, I love you." His words were like a bucket of cold water. Love? Was that what I felt too? Or was I just confusing the excitement of the forbidden, the adrenaline of the adventure, with true love? I pulled away from him, needing space to think. "Jason, I don't know what to say. All of this is so complicated." "I know," he said, his voice full of frustration and pain. "But I can't keep pretending I don't feel anything for you. I can't keep watching you with Andrew when I know we could be happy together." His words unleashed a whirlwind of emotions in me. On one hand, the idea of being with Jason, of exploring this connection we had discovered, was incredibly tempting. On the other, there was the weight of 5 years with Andrew, the history we had built together, the plans we had, Maid, I need time. I finally told him, I need to think to clear my feelings. I can't make a decision like this. Suddenly, Jason nodded, disappointment evident in his eyes but also understanding. I understand. He said, take all the time you need, I'll be here waiting. The following days were emotional hell. Every moment with Andrew was tinged with guilt and doubt. I constantly compared. Was his touch less exciting than Jason's? His conversation less stimulating? Or was I just idealizing Jason because he represented the new, the forbidden? One night, as Andrew slept beside me, I made a decision. I couldn't go on like this. Living a lie. Divided between two men. I had to be honest. Face the consequences of my actions. The next morning, with my heart in my throat, I asked Andrew to sit down with me. We need to talk, I said. The hardest words I had ever uttered. What followed was the most painful conversation of my life. I told him everything. Jason's visit, how one thing led to another, the subsequent encounters, the confused feelings. Andrew listened in silence, his face passing through a range of emotions. Shock, pain, anger, betrayal. When I finished, there was a long silence. Finally, Andrew spoke, his voice broken. Do you love him? The question hit me like a punch. Did I love Jason, or was I just in love with the idea of him, with the excitement he represented? I don't know, I answered honestly. Everything is so confusing right now. Andrew stood up, pacing the room like a caged lion. And us? He asked. What about our relationship, our plans, our dreams? Tears were running down my cheeks. I don't know, Andrew. All I know is that I can't keep lying to you, lying to myself. I need time to think, to understand what I really want. Andrew's expression hardened. Time, he repeated bitterly. And what am I supposed to do while you think? Wait patiently while you decide if you prefer my best friend? His words hurt, but I knew he had the right to be angry. I'm sorry, was all I could say. I'm so sorry. Andrew grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Before leaving, he turned to me one last time. When you decide what you want, let me know, but don't expect me to be here waiting for you. With those words, he left the apartment, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my guilt. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. I immersed myself in work, trying to avoid thinking about the mess my personal life had become. But in the quiet moments, thoughts and doubts assaulted me mercilessly. Jason tried to contact me several times, but I didn't feel ready to talk to him. I needed to clarify my own feelings before getting more involved in this complicated situation. A week after my confession to Andrew, I received a message from him asking me to meet. With my heart in my throat, I accepted. We met in a neutral park, a place where we had spent many happy moments together in the past. Andrew looked tired, with pronounced dark circles and an expression of defeat that broke my heart. We sat on a bench, the silence heavy between us. I've been thinking a lot, he finally began. About us, about what happened, about our future. I nodded, unable to find the right words. I love you, Lucy, he continued, his voice breaking slightly. These 5 years together have been the best of my life, but now I realize that maybe it wasn't enough for you. Andrew, it's not that, I tried to interrupt, but he raised a hand to stop me. Let me finish, please, he said softly. I've been remembering the last few months, even the last year. And now I can see the signs I ignored, your distancing, your lack of enthusiasm for our future, plans I should have noticed before. I should have done something. Tears began to run down my cheeks. It's not your fault, I managed to say. I should have been honest with you from the beginning. I should have told you how I felt. Andrew nodded slowly. We both made mistakes. But what you did with Jason, that's something I don't know if I can forgive. His words hit me hard, though I knew they were fair. I understand, I said quietly. However, Andrew continued, surprising me, I also understand that relationships aren't perfect. That sometimes people make mistakes, even serious mistakes. I looked at him, not daring to hope. I can't promise you things will be like before, he said. But if you really want to try, if you're willing to work on our relationship, to rebuild trust, I'm willing to try." His offer left me breathless. A part of me wanted to throw myself into his arms, accept his forgiveness, and try to forget everything that had happened. But another part, a part that had awakened with Jason, doubted. "I need time to think," I finally told him. "Your offer means a lot to me, Andrew, but it wouldn't be fair to either of us for me to make a decision now, when I'm still so confused." Andrew nodded, a mix of pain and understanding in his eyes. "I understand. Take the time you need. But Lucy, I can't wait forever." We said goodbye with an awkward hug, the familiarity of years together fighting against the distance my actions had created between us. The following days were a whirlwind of reflection and self-analysis. I thought about my relationship with Andrew, about the good times and the bad. I thought about Jason, about the passion and excitement he had brought to my life. And I thought about myself, about what I really wanted for my future. Finally, after a week of introspection, I made a decision. First, I needed to talk to Jason. We met at the same cafe where we had had our intense conversation weeks earlier. Jason looked nervous, his eyes searching for answers in my face. "Jason," I began, my voice firmer than I expected. "What happened between us, it was intense, passionate, and it awakened things in me that I thought were forgotten. But it was also a mistake." I saw the pain reflected in his eyes, but I continued. "I can't deny that I feel something for you, but I've also understood that much of that attraction was based on the excitement of the forbidden, on novelty. It's not a solid foundation for a relationship." Jason nodded slowly, disappointment evident on his face. "I understand," he said softly. "I guess a part of me always knew this was too good to be true." "I'm sorry," I said, "and I meant it. I never meant to hurt you. Or Andrew." We said goodbye with a bittersweet hug, both aware that our friendship would never be the same. With a heavy but determined heart, I headed to Andrew's apartment. The moment of truth had arrived. Andrew greeted me with a cautious expression. We sat in his living room, the silence heavy between us. "I've made a decision," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "Andrew, these days, away from you have made me realize how much you mean to me. What I did was unforgivable, and I'll understand if you can't get past it, but if you're willing to try, so am I. I want to rebuild what we had, make it stronger." Andrew stared at me, searching for the truth in my eyes. "Are you sure?" he asked. "What about Jason?" "I've talked to him," I answered honestly. "I told him that what we had was a mistake, that my place is with you, if you still want me." There was a moment of silence that seemed eternal. Finally, Andrew spoke. "It won't be easy, Lucy. Trust it will take time to rebuild." "I know," I said, tears threatening to fall. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I love you, Andrew, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving it to you." Andrew slowly approached, taking my hands in his. "I love you too, Lucy. And although this has hurt us deeply, I believe we can overcome it. Together." We hugged, tears flowing freely now. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, that there would be moments of doubt and pain. But I also knew that what Andrew and I had was special, something worth fighting for. In the months that followed, we worked hard on our relationship. We attended couples therapy, learned to communicate better, to express our needs and fears. Slowly, trust began to rebuild. It wasn't an easy process. There were times when guilt overwhelmed me, times when Andrew struggled with his own insecurities, but with each obstacle overcome, our relationship grew stronger. A year after that afternoon that changed our lives, Andrew and I were on a beach, watching the sunset. I turned to him, marveling at how we had made it here. "You know," I said, intertwining my fingers with his, "despite all the pain, all the mistakes, I wouldn't change anything, because all of that brought us here, made us stronger." Andrew looked at me, a soft smile on his lips. "I wouldn't change it either," he said, "because now I know without a doubt that you're the person I want to spend the rest of my life with." And there, with the sun sinking into the horizon, Andrew knelt and proposed to me through tears of joy. I could only say one word: yes. As the ring slid onto my finger, I thought about the journey that had brought us to this moment, about the mistakes made, the lessons learned, the love that had survived the storm and emerged stronger. That forbidden afternoon with Jason had been a turning point in my life. It had forced me to confront my own desires and fears, to question what I really wanted. And although the path had been difficult, it had led me exactly where I needed to be. I looked at Andrew, my future husband, and knew we had made the right decision. Our love wasn't perfect, but it was real, tested by fire and stronger for it. As we walked along the beach, hand in hand towards our future together, I felt a deep gratitude for second chances, for forgiveness, and for love that had been strong enough to overcome even my worst mistakes. And so, with the setting sun painting the sky in golden and pink hues, the next chapter of our story began. A story of love, forgiveness, and the strength of the human heart to heal and grow even after the deepest wounds.